Okay, a silly question, but does it not get depressing after a while to do these surveys of Canadians and find out how little they know about their own history?
Well, it's depressing to the degree that we've seen a decline. So in other words, when we started the Dominion Institute in 1997, we did our first surveys. They generated a lot of buzz, and it was a kind of an interesting benchmark. What we've seen, though, over the last decade is in the case of knowledge of Confederation, knowledge of John A. Macdonald, almost a percentage point decline in awareness amongst that 18 to 25-year-old group each year. So, again, if the glass started, somewhere between half empty and half full, it's definitely moved into the half empty side of the equation. And I think, again, it speaks to this just perverse system in Canada where we spend billions of dollars on the subsidization of culture, which is a good thing or not, depending on your kind of philosophical orientation. But the one area where we have absolute sovereignty, our classrooms, only 3 provinces require students to take a course in 20th century Canadian history to graduate from high school. So there's 400,000 young people coming out of our school systems across Canada. Probably less than 100,000 have been required to take Canadian history as a high school subject.
And what's the rationale for that?
Well, I think the rationale is parochialism on the part of our provinces that jealously guard their constitutional powers over education. I think it's also an education system that's kind of gone helter-skelter, that is more focused on what they consider the goal of employability, giving students the types of skills that they think the job market will demand of them, as opposed to maybe an older philosophy about education that really was about citizenship, a kind of humanist philosophy. And in this new kind of work-oriented school system, work-directed school system, I think we're really failing our young people in terms of giving them the cultural capital, the civic literacy that they need to participate in society as informed and active citizens.
Is there a chance or a possibility that, having leaders who are perceived to be more dynamic and charismatic currently might not only ignite people's interests in politics and raise voting, but also ignite their interest in history as well? Or is that a very superficial?
No, look, we live in a leader-driven political culture, a leader-driven media culture, and I think the kind of gray-on-gray that's been the color palette for a lot of Canadian politics over the last decade is probably responsible for some of this apathy. At the same time, though, I think the leader philosophy is a bit like, we're waiting for Moses, let's have him lead us out of this desert. Right. Instead, though, I think we have to understand that there are institutions like our schools, like curriculum, that are incredibly powerful, that have the ability to really move the yard posts in terms of civic literacy, civic participation. And it just seems like we're incapable of understanding just how urgent this challenge is, what a threat, in fact, I think it is to so many things about Canada that we understand make it such a special country. We can't sit around waiting, for our version of Barack Obama or whoever it is.
At the same time, you've proposed things like mandatory voting, at least to be considered mandatory national service. Yeah. What type of reaction do those ideas get?
Well, a couple things. We polled young Canadians, that 18 to 25-year-old group, on a couple of ideas. For instance, what did young people think about having to write the same exam that immigrants are required to pass in order to become Canadian citizens in order to get their high school diploma? A really nice gesture to say, citizenship is not just about immigration, it's about, assuming some knowledge, responsibility of knowing your country. Young Canadians overwhelmingly supported that idea, and that's kind of neat, because, how many 18 to 25-year-olds thought, hey, at the end of high school, I want to write another exam?
One they would probably fail.
Yeah. So that was positive. Civic service, national civic service is going to be controversial, and it's been something I had some pushback on. Canada has a troubled history with conscription. So the fact that one is asking people to give 8 or 10 or 12 months of that gap year between high school and university, I think what young people at universities, when I've been talking about this idea, what they do like is a proposal that I make in the book. Let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Students are graduating with far too much debt in terms of continuing education after high school. Let's say to them, you give time to your country, a year of civic service. we'll provide you with effectively zero-cost continuing education, let's say up to the age of 21. And let's build that into how we budget this program out, how we roll it out. And then there's a sense of give to get, that you're going to be provided with opportunities on the basis of serving your country.